Hi guys, welcome to the start of this vlog. I would love to start a vlog today. It is Friday the 7th, it is nighttime, and I'm about to do some reading. And I would love to vlog. It might be a weekend vlog, I might do it a week-long vlog, we'll see what it ends up being. But for now, let me catch you up with my reading. So this week, I have been, something I've been reading that I haven't talked about on my channel yet is The Pillow Book by Shonagon. And I'm reading that with Classics and Company, which is a book club started by Micah Cummins. I will link to it, and it's a book club for classics, so it's my first time joining with them, and I've been really enjoying that. I won't go into detail. I think I'll probably just talk about that during my wrap-up because I'm listening to that on audiobook. But for today, the book that I'm going to be reading is The Glutton by A.K. Blakemore. I'm still going on this. I am more than halfway through, but I've been going pretty slowly because I've just been working a lot on videos and stuff, and I haven't been reading that much. And but yeah, so I would love to try to finish this weekend and starting on a couple other books for the historical fiction readathon for sure. So yeah, so I'm going to be reading this right now. Hey guys, it is now Saturday and I am almost done with The Glutton. I only have about 30 pages left of this, and so I will save my thoughts for the end. Spoiler, I'm still loving it though. And then I will definitely start on some new reads. So I have both The Painter's Daughters by Emily Howes and The God of Endings by Jacqueline Holland. And I will probably sample both of these and we'll see which one catches my attention more. I also have Cartucho in ebook format, and I will also start on that today for sure. Yeah, so I'll come back to you once I am done with The Glutton to share my thoughts. And then later today, I would love to do some baking and show you guys what I end up baking. So yeah. So I finished The Glutton and I really enjoyed it a lot. It is not going to be for everybody, that's for sure. It's pretty unusual, but then again, the subject is pretty unusual. So this book is about Tarare, who was a real person, a French peasant who became famous in his time for being someone who could eat endlessly and could also eat very unusual things, ate a lot of inedible things, and also animals, live and dead, and all sorts of things. And this does a very interesting job of creating a story for him because there isn't very good information about him that has survived. And I enjoyed in the afterword, the author says, "My intent in writing this book was not to present a truth, but to offer the most believable and therefore compelling iteration of a myth. And I really appreciate it for that because, I mean, it's very difficult to present a truth in such an extraordinary case because there has never been a recorded case of anybody else who could eat like Terrari and had such an endless appetite, which the book does a great job of picturing how much it was like a curse. Because it was compulsive. It wasn't like, oh, he could, so he did. It was very much pictured in that kind of way. Never quite explaining anything, which makes it more interesting, honestly, to leave it very ambivalent because we don't know and he didn't know. But I really enjoyed this. I saw on the flap that the author is a poet, which makes a lot of sense because this book is, although quite grotesque, also really beautifully written, very descriptive, at times abstract and very poetic in describing in very sensory ways, ways to connect with what is happening, what Terrari is experiencing, and so it's very evocative and very enjoyable. I did find it very compelling. It is very push and pull. No saints here, but no absolute devils either. And something else that the author mentions in the afterword that I found interesting is that she drew on the work of Clarice Lispector in The Passion According to G.H. She says that it's the best novel I know of concerning the interaction of beauty with disgust, which is absolutely what this novel is doing, and I really enjoyed that exploration. And I haven't read a lot of Clarice Lispector, and so this, The Passion According to G.H. is now way further up the list for me, knowing that that is something that inspired this. So yeah. So this will not be for everybody, but for anybody who might be interested, I thought it was amazing. So that's my first read for the readathon done. So I will be trying some more books later today, and then also baking. And yeah, so I'll see you when I have some kind of update. Hi guys, so I'm gonna be making some chocolate chip cookies. I really wanted to make banana bread because that's what I've been craving, but the bananas I got are very underripe, so it's gonna take them a few days to get nice and spotty brown because I like them very sweet. So yeah, so for today I'm gonna be making the chocolate chip cookies, and yeah, hope you enjoy. Hey guys, I have another update for you. It is now Sunday and I want to update you on the stuff I've been reading. So I've got the books that I tried out yesterday, but first I want to talk about The Pillow Book, which I also finished listening to on audio, and I haven't talked about that one yet, so I really enjoyed it. It's a very interesting book, not one that I would have picked up if it hadn't been for Classics and Company, which is a book club that was started by Micah Cummins and Ann Novella. I forgot to mention her last time that I mentioned the book club, sorry about that. It is a book that really kind of defies genre categorization. It's made up of essays, diary-like entries, and lists. I thought at first it made me think of something like a commonplace book, but because it has the diary-ish things in there, it doesn't quite fit into that category. But anyway, it was written at the beginning of the 11th century by a court woman named Shonagon, who was a lady in waiting for Empress Tashi, and yeah, she's just a really cool lady. And so I just really enjoyed getting to know her. She is prideful and boastful, you know, snobby and opinionated, and it was a lot of fun because as you're getting to know her as a person, you're also getting to know about the customs of the time. But I love the mixed bag that it is. You know, you'll have these beautiful ruminations on the changing seasons and things like that next to these gossipy entries and lists of things she doesn't like, next to just venting clearly about things that happened to her. You know, someone got on her bad side and she's like, well, I'm putting that in my book. And it's very interesting because it's written very much in a way where it feels like it's written for herself in a personal kind of way, but there's also a sense of a consciousness of an audience, and it's unclear what the purpose of the book was, if it really was just for herself. I did read that something like this could be viewed as what? I read that something like this could be shared around the court, and the cleverness of it, the appreciation of it, could reflect well on the Empress herself, for example. And so it's just interesting to consider that level of sort of conscious making of it by Shonagon. I like thinking of her going about her day, making observations, consciously trying to memorize things that she would see that might be good to add to her book, or ideas for lists, or things to add to her lists and stuff like that. And I just really enjoyed the multifacetedness of it, the humanness of it. It isn't just a book full of beautiful writing that reflected well on her. She also had things that made her look, you know, picky and opinionated as she was, which is the kind of thing that can make you seem cool, like, oh, she's such a rebel, or it might have a negative effect. I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was a riot. And I listened to it on audio, like I mentioned. I listened to the translation by Ivan Morris, but I would really like to eventually get a physical copy, and I think I would really like to get one that has as many notes and annotations and footnotes as they want to put in there, because obviously with Japanese and Chinese characters, there's a level of wordplay that those have that you entirely miss out on when you translate them. And so I would love to, you know, whenever I get to a reread, have more of that in there to add to the experience. So yeah, so I'll be looking into a translation to buy at some point. But I enjoyed the audiobook. It was a good way to experience it, at least for the first time. Oh, but I also wanted to share a quote because I think it describes kind of the kinds of things that I just really enjoyed. So it's at the end of a section where she's talking about birds and birds she likes, and she says, "Do you want to help me?" Oh. At the end of a section where she's talking about birds. "You're so helpful. So helpful today." We have a new star of the show. He'll just be hanging out, I guess. So it's at the end of a section all about birds and things she likes about birds. And she says, "Anything that cries out at night delights me," which is pretty suggestive. But then she adds, "except for babies." You're making it so hard for me to concentrate. Okay, so the next book I want to talk about is going to be Cartucho by Nellie Campobello. And I'm enjoying all of these, just so you guys know. So this book is centering around the Mexican Revolution in the north of Mexico from the point of view of a young girl between 1916 and 1920. And it's in small vignettes, which so far have been centering on different men that the little girl comes into contact with. And I'm really enjoying this. This is not something that is going to be noticeable in a translation, but because it's written in Mexican Spanish, it is, you know, the kind of phrasing that I'm very familiar with, and so that's adding, you know, something that I'm really enjoying about it. But yeah, I like the point of view of the child because it's very descriptive and without judgment, and so it leaves a lot of room for you to form sort of your opinion about what you're learning about. But also you learn about these men who are revolutionaries and experiencing a lot of violence, but it also adds this humanizing element to them. And yeah, so far it's really great, and I'm excited to keep going with it. The next one I'm going to talk about is The Painter's Daughters. And this one is all about Molly and Peggy Gainsborough, who were Thomas Gainsborough's daughters, famous painter in the 1700s. And it's all about their relationship, the girls' relationship with their parents, and all the beautiful descriptions of Thomas Gainsborough's studio and his materials and the way that they experience his love of painting, and it's just very enjoyable so far, and there's a certain lightness to this. Yeah, so I haven't gotten to any big plot moments, but I know that they will be moving from Ipswich to Bath, and that will have a big impact on them. And so yeah, I'm really looking forward to continuing with this one as well. I was seeing that the author, Emily House, is a psychotherapist, which I think is great, because this deals with mental illness. Molly Gainsborough had some form of mental illness that really affected her life, and so knowing that the author has a lot of experience with mental illness makes me feel a little bit more hopeful that the treatment of it will be done with grace in here. So yeah, I really am looking forward to seeing how she goes about framing the narrative of this and their relationship of the two sisters in relation to mental illness. And the last book I want to talk about is going to be The God of Endings by Jacqueline Holland. And I'm also really enjoying this. It has a very different tone to something like The Painter's Daughters. even though it starts out similarly with our main protagonist, Colette, describing how she loves her father and he is a gravestone maker, and so she describes his sort of artistry and his attention to detail, and how it relates to her love and appreciation of him. And so so this takes place in New York in the early 1830s, and there's some kind of outbreak, presumably typhus, because people are coughing up blood. And one day he tells her that he is writing a letter to her maternal grandmother, whom she is not familiar with because she remarried, and the man that she remarried is someone that they find very strange. They don't trust him. They don't understand, I suppose, the kind of person that he is. And but he is presumably writing to them because he is sick and dying, and the children are going to need someone to look after them. And so after her father dies, she and her brother are both sick, and he dies as well. And this is when finally the step grandfather rescues her and takes care of her, but she is not getting better. And so before she dies, he turns her into a vampire, and he tells her, I thought that you might be someone who can do something with this form of a life, and if I am wrong, then I am sorry. And so that is the starting premise for the book. That is how she got turned into a vampire, and so that's where I'm at. But I know that it's going to skip ahead in time to the 80s, where Colette is running a school, an art school for children in New York in the 80s. And so I'm very excited to see where it goes. I wanted to read a little quote right at the beginning because I thought it would be a really good example of the kind of writing in here, and also to describe the kind of atmosphere that you get from the book. So she says, "Death to me was tied inextricably to cherished things, to craftsmanship and poetry, to my father, and to the beautiful things he made, and I couldn't help but feel some tenderness for all of it." So yeah, so this one's definitely darker, a bit heavier, and I love that. I think I'm a bit of a vampire myself, so I love stuff like that. And so yeah, so that's all of these, and I am so happy with my reading so far this month. It is very cool to have such good reads going all at the same time. I have some shopping I want to do, and the shopping mall I want to go to has 2 large bookstores in it, and so I thought it'd be cool to take you guys along with me, show you some clips from the bookstores for the vlog. And yeah, so I guess I'll catch up with you guys when I have another update for you. Hi guys, so as you saw on Sunday, I actually ended up changing my plans, and instead of going to the mall, I went for a walk because the weather was just so nice that I thought it would be a better thing to do. And then also the mall closes early on Sunday, and so I felt like, well, it's a convenience thing too then to just leave it for another day, and maybe it'll be less busy as well than on a Sunday. Yeah, so I ended up getting 2 books. I ended up grabbing The Age of Innocence by Edith Wharton, which I have not read, but I really like these Barnes & Noble paperbacks, and the typesetting is nice and, you know, legible and pretty. And then the other one I got is Mrs. Dalloway, so now I have a physical copy for Mrs. Dalloway, and I like this kind of modern cover with the watercolor flowers and these sort of like fragmented lines. Yeah, I just thought it looked cool. And there's also an annotated version of Mrs. Dalloway that I think I might grab at some point, because on a reread I feel like it would be really cool to have all that extra kind of information to add more to the experience. So yeah, so those were the 2 books I got. I did want to do a little update on the stuff that I started reading this weekend, one last update. So the first one I'm going to update you on is The God of Endings, because I think this one's the one that I have read the most from so far. And so after the first chapter, which is the backstory of how Colette is turned into a vampire, each chapter goes back and forth in time to what is, I suppose, for her the present, which is the 80s, where she runs an art school for children, and then back in time telling the story after she was turned into a vampire. And so I imagine that, you know, as we go in both timelines, we'll learn more about her, what has made her into the person that she is now, and also I imagine at some point the 2 timelines will converge. And so in that 80s setting, you get to see a little bit of what her everyday is like at the art school with the kids and stuff. But then there's also very unusual things happening all of a sudden. We learn that she used to have nightmares related to things that happened to her in the past, and that all of a sudden she stopped having the nightmares, and then all of a sudden they're starting again. And at the same time, her hunger is increasing a lot. And then too, kind of strange things are starting to happen. And so it's pretty slow paced, very character focused. And the chapters are not consistent in length, but they are short. They're definitely on the shorter side, which is kind of nice. And the tone is very kind of dark and brooding, which, you know, for a 150-year-old character, you assume she's had some regrets, and so you expect her to be a bit cynical. She's definitely a very reluctant vampire, so it'll be interesting to see if that has always been the case, or if maybe she had a period in her life when she did embrace her vampire side. Yeah, there's definitely a lot that is being hinted at but not explained at all, and so I'm sure that a lot of things will come to light as I keep reading the book. Because I'm still pretty early on in my reading. I don't read very quickly. I'm actually, my reading speed is very average, so slow. And I don't like pressuring myself to read more than I feel like or want to. I had a period when I was really obsessed with the idea of reading or finishing as many books as possible. I read the most that year than I ever had before that. I just felt so pressured to keep reading books that I wasn't enjoying and finishing books that I wasn't enjoying. And so, yeah, it just really changed my perception of what it was that I wanted from my reading, because I read for enjoyment, and it really took the joy out of it. So now I'm much better at giving up on books, and also really looking for any way to take pressure off of my reading. Sometimes I worry about the fact that I don't read that fast, but, you know, because I sub-vocalize when I read, and I can read without sub-vocalizing, but I kind of try not to think about it too much because I really like to get immersed in what I'm reading. I mean, I don't know if it's natural, but I've definitely built up a way of reading critically that is just, you know, idiosyncratic. It's not based on any, like, you know, someone's idea of what reading critically is. It's just the way that I like to do it. And so I really kind of take my time and savor and sort of dig in and peel layers, and that's just how I like to read. And so I definitely prefer books that allow you to do that. I'm very writing focused. When a book has a very straightforward story and a very straightforward storytelling style, a lot of times I'm not very interested, because it just doesn't allow me to do that you know, digging that I like to do. So yeah, I felt like it was a good moment to kind of mention what kind of reader I am. So yeah, I don't read like a million books a year or finish a ton of books a month or anything. But I'm happy with whatever number I get. That's why I don't do the yearly challenge for Goodreads and whatever other platforms, because I don't want to care about the number at all. I just care about my enjoyment, and that's what I try to focus on. So moving on, the next book I want to talk about is Cartucho. And this is just a really fun surprise for me. And I'm finding it's kind of hard to talk about it. I tried talking to Bruce, my husband, about it, and it was kind of difficult to express how I feel about it, I guess. So the book is split into very short vignettes, all told from the narrator's point of view as a child. And each one centers on a man, well, not all men, but mostly men, who she came into contact with or heard about. And it's just about how they lived and died very suddenly. And the thing that's so cool about them is that they're just these impressions, these glimpses into their lives as people, because the book obviously takes place during the Mexican Revolution, but it is not about the revolution in a sense. It does not focus on battles or on glorifying figures or anything like that. And so it takes the focus into the realm of the ordinary, and it's really effective. It takes these moments that end up being very memorable and that really humanize the people that it is highlighting. Some of them are well-known figures and some of them are more anonymous people. And it does that alike for all of them. And I actually find some of the ones that are focusing on people that are just very ordinary to be, I feel like they're the ones that might stay with me the most. So an example is the story where she's talking about this young man called Babis, who worked at a little candy stall, and they were friends. She would come over and he would give her lots of free candy, and he really liked her because she could stand up to the boys her age. But he would say that he really wanted to go off and fight, and he wanted to get some chaps with white buckles. And so he does go, and a month after that, a soldier that knew him comes with the message that he died in a siege. And he kind of talks about him like he was a cowardly person, and the little girl's like, he wasn't cowardly, he stole candy for me. And yeah, and he probably died without having gotten his chaps with buckles. So it's very sad, but it's also really sweet getting these little glimpses of her experience with that person. Not all of them are quite as sweet, but yeah, I just think it's a really interesting way to read about a significant violent time. Yeah, adding that humanity to it is really nice. I'm really enjoying it. So for something relatively lighter, the last one I'm going to talk about is The Painter's Daughters. And this one's the one that I've read the least from so far, but it might actually be the one that I'm most excited for because it just fits my taste really well, I think. Just the tone of it is so lovely. It starts out with this very like loving, warm description of the family circle, and so you're getting to know the parents and the two little girls, and it really shows their interactions with each other, so that you start to understand what their relationships are like with each other, the ways that the parents are different from each other, the ways that they complement each other, and how their different personalities mean that the little girls read them a certain way, and so they have different kinds of attachment to their parents. And so it's wonderful the way that the narrative really shows you through their interactions how the characters feel about each other. You very quickly get to know their personalities, and how they feel in relation to each other, and how they have learned to orbit around each other in order to get that sense of, you know, that combination of control and peace in their environment. To kind of give more of an example of that, the mother is very neat and organized, keeps everything in check, while the dad is a lot more, you know, kind of relaxed and passive and very doting. And so the girls are definitely daddy's girls, you know, and he wants them to be kind of wild and free while they're still young, while the mom is really feeling like she wants the family to move to the city so that the girls can sort of properly grow into their place in society, and then also grow the father's painting business. And then there's a moment when the mom is expressing concern for Molly because she sleepwalks at night, and so she's very sleepy during the day sometimes, and she puts her hand on Molly's forehead, and Peggy's a little jealous of that, and she's like, oh, I wish she would put her hand on my forehead too, because it would feel really nice and cool in the hot summer heat. You know, so you learn about those feelings that you have in childhood that maybe sometimes you misinterpret as not caring, or, you know, but then later Peggy also says that for all that the dad is very, you know, outwardly loving and doting, there are times when really it's only the mom that can do kind of the right thing for the moment. So she knows how to take care of a cut or an earache, and she'll tell them bedtime stories. And then when she's in the best moods, she will take out her little box of treasures and let them kind of rummage through and look at all her little treasures. And so it's just full of stuff like that just, it just makes me so happy. That's the kind of stuff I love. And so the tone leans more like bittersweet, maybe a little bit melancholic, and like serene. There's no impending doom or darkness or dread in the God of Endings, but knowing what the subject matter is, where things are heading based on the synopsis, I'm sure that it'll lean sad, which I'm here for. I love a good bittersweet sad story. So yeah, I am enjoying all of them a lot. You know, I've got things for different moods, which is great. So I hope you guys enjoyed the vlog, first vlog ever. Yeah, so let me know what you think of any of the books that I talked about, if you are more or less interested in any of them, or tell me about what you're reading right now. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.